Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode number 9 of the Jeopardy Fans Live Panel Discussions. Once again, I am Andy Saunders. I will be hosting and moderating the discussion for the ninth time, and I'd like to welcome at this time our other few panelists. First up, my co-blogger, Jeannie Kenkel, who is there. She is. There's Jeannie. Celebrating a Jeopardy-related anniversary this week. She got the call to be on the show 3 years ago this week, so happy anniversary. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We also have some other former contestants here. Welcome back once again to former contestant Ben Ingram. Joining Ben in the upcoming Tournament of Champions, another one of our panelists, Sarah McNitt. Do note, in case anyone is wondering and has any care about standards and practices, that they have already taped, so it's cool. There's no problem by them being on the same panel. And finally, we have Todd Makovsky. He was on a couple of weeks ago, and so we have some questions for him about his appearance as well. Thanks for joining us, everyone. So first up, before I get to the real Jeopardy stuff, I do want to talk about Sports Jeopardy. First of all, very, very briefly, I just want to give props to last week's winner, Betsy Schrader. She won the game, and I thought she played very well in doing so. One of the better performances, in not as much monetarily wise, but I felt personally she played the game very well, and she wasn't afraid to make a big bet in an attempt to get through to the $50,000 finals. So if you've been watching Sports Jeopardy and wondering how to play the game, you could probably look at what Betsy did this past week, and I would say that would be a very good, I guess, Sports Jeopardy 101. Now on to the actual stuff. We do have, before I get to this next week's, or this past week's, I should say, episodes, Dan, Candace, and Jim, they all are planning on joining us at some point in the near future, and also Regina. So I think we're going to we're going to get back to these shows a little bit over the next few hangouts as well, but I think we can start things off. First up, Jeopardy kind of went viral a little bit this past week over Dan Tran's first interview. I want to say that I thought Alex did a very good job of trying to save that interview as much as he could, because, I don't know, did we think it was viral worthy, or worthy of going viral, first of all? That story about the sun and the moon in Paris.
I don't think we ever get to decide what's worthy of going viral. It just does it whether we think it's worthy or not. And I'm not sure that Alex did so much to save it, as it sounds like from the write-up that Dan did on Facebook that he may have been responsible for it, that Dan wasn't really expecting that story to come up or something.
I think it's, yeah, because I saw what he wrote on Facebook, and I watched it, and I'll go ahead and admit I didn't know what he was talking about. But the best part, as you mentioned, Sarah, was the way that he just took it all in stride. I think that, you know, I told several bad stories when I was on there. I told probably 9 or 10 bad stories, and none of them went viral. But I don't know if I don't know what he did, but he can tell us if he joins. But you know, it happens, and his reaction to it was classy, in my opinion.
Well, you know, you never know until like the last minute which of the stories Alex is going to ask you about. I thought that it was going to be a different story than the one that he'd asked me about. I'm glad that he asked me about the one that he talked to me about. So I can understand how it could throw you, like, you know, for a loop.
The musical, right?
Yeah, the musical. Yeah, but that's not the one that I thought he was going to ask me about.
What did you think he was going to ask you about?
You know, they give you a choice between 3 stories, and my first story. And now that I think about it, it's kind of silly. People come up, but I'm really glad that he asked me about the musical because
What's the name of it? I mean, you got to plug it here.
Oh, I will. It's called It Gets Better.
Cool.
It's based on the It Gets Better campaign that was started by Dan Savage.
I'll see that one these days. I'll take Liz there.
You performed it in Lincoln last year, Ben.
Yeah, it was in Lincoln.
Dang, I wish that's literally 1,000 miles from me. But I don't know if it's ever going to come to Charlotte. There's a pretty good theater scene in Charlotte. Come on down.
We go where we're invited, so have them bring us. It's usually a university that brings us. So
okay,
we'd love to.
Yeah,
I think the message needs to go everywhere.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But anyway, as far as the interview going viral, yeah, I think it was kind of, if anything on Jeopardy is going to go viral, probably that.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's even a Twitter out there about Jeopardy stories, and some are good, some are, I don't know. None. I don't think any is bad. It's just hard to come up with such things. I remember before the audition that I auditioned on December the 1st of 12, and I had forgotten to come up with my stories, and I came up with 5 of them, and when I got on the actual show, they were all rejected, every last one of them. So I had to come up with 5 more. But
I actually got a call the week before I was going to be on the show from Robert, the contestant coordinator, saying, like, we basically had to work on my stories for Trebek. He was like, well, what about this? What about that? Like, he was trying to coach me. I guess he didn't like what I had, but...
Yeah,
good at what
I
he
was
does.
on a Wednesday taping and then a Tuesday taping. And in between, Robert charged me with coming up with better stories because I didn't have enough for the second week's episodes. And then the one that Alex asked me about was like us buying a new litter box for the cat with our winnings. And it was like I had so many better stories on the card, but that was what he wanted to ask about.
now, until I saw you tell that story, Sarah, on TV, I thought cat stories were verboten.
Well, and I had heard that he liked to talk about relationships. He didn't like to talk about cats.
Yeah.
And then I had relationship stories on the card. I had a story about I think I had 2 stories about my wedding or something, and he didn't want to talk about any of that. And Robert and I kept bumping it up to the top, and he would not talk about it, and he wanted to talk about the cat's litter box instead.
Wow.
So.
I talked a little.
Alex can confuse us all sometimes, I guess.
I
Now,
talked a
when you
little.
guys were in the tournament, did they give you more cues, like to come up with new stories? Because you had to come up with a lot more. I mean, how did they? Did you just ask this?
To come up with stories related to winning on Jeopardy, so things like what we had done with the winnings, or how it had changed our lives, or stories of interactions that people had with us after we won on Jeopardy.
Okay.
So that was mostly what they wanted to talk about. I had regular stories and Jeopardy-focused stories in my little contestant.
Okay.
But
Good. I don't envy you guys for having to go through it twice, picking out stories. Your regular episodes and then tournament episodes.
They always pick, except in Todd's case and maybe Sarah's case and your case, they always pick, in my case, the most dull ones. I guess. And I did talk about my cat. She's white. Her name is Van. I didn't give her that cat. Someone gave her to me, but they cut that out.
I wonder why.
Yeah, because nobody likes cats. I didn't think I like cats either. No. Here, kitty. She's somewhere around here. It's hard to come up with those things, and there's not enough time to really, to really interact with Alex Trebek, because it's like tell your story and then move on. I wonder if because in the old days, you watch in the 80s with those big CRT monitors, they would actually just chat for a little while. I think they would tell one story and then just talk about, oh, I'm married, just like Wheel of Fortune type talk. But it's different today. It's a lot more rigid.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have a story that you've practiced with Robert to deliver a certain way, and then Alex comes at it from a completely different direction.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to sort of roll with that and, tell the story even if he's sort of ruined the punchline.
Yeah.
Some folks say get rid of the stories.
That would be okay with me.
I would disagree with that. I think Jeopardy feels like the last remaining bastion of the story that all of the old game shows used to have, and I feel as though it would be a passing if Jeopardy got rid of them as well. I mean, to me, some game shows don't even give the last name of a contestant anymore, let alone ask any sort of story of the contestants. So that's obviously my opinion. And you are welcome to disagree with me, but.
Well, I was overseas in India a couple of years ago on a job, and one of the shows that they had on was called Khan Banega Crorepati, which is the Indian version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And I'd say about 1/3 of that show was questions, and then the other 2/3 was just like a video life story of, oh, I come from this small village and such, here are my grandparents, here's all my sons, here's my wife, and so on and so forth. I think there was too much of that, but it's like if you take the stories out of Jeopardy, it's like taking the kickoff out of football. I think it's too much of the tradition to get rid of, and I think it would ruin the pacing and flow of the show to boot.
I agree, and it really is kind of our 15 minutes of fame up there, and sort of want people to know who we are.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it would just be these questioning machines up there.
Yeah, that'd be a yawner right there.
Yeah.
So moving on, it feels as though we have this discussion every single week now on the panel, but we had another tie last week. And if you've been following the panels, you know how I feel about that. You know how, I'm sure if you follow a certain other YouTube channel, I'm sure you know how he feels about it. And do we think Dan's experience Tuesday, and that he offered the tie on Monday and then failed to win on Tuesday, losing, of course, to the person he offered the tie to, do we think that's a cautionary tale on what can happen, or is it just one of those things that happens sometimes and people should still offer the tie? What do we think?
I'm kind of mixed about ties. I think that listen, I was kind of against ties at the before I went on, and I'm so happy that my opponent's tied, because at least I came in second and got $2,000 as opposed to $1,000. But there's something smart about tying, because at least it's kind of like the devil you know. You're going against an opponent who you kind of know their strengths and weaknesses a bit, as opposed to two completely new people. I don't know, and I think it's kind of nice that more people win more money. That's just the socialist in me.
Boo! Socialism.
Well, I can see that point, and it does end up giving more people more money, but also it does, as I've said before, one fewer person gets to be on the show now, because
True.
That co-champion takes up the spot.
It's time for my story about my tie.
There's
and person. Oh, go ahead, Todd. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Todd.
No. I was just agreeing.
So I guess
I was
Ben
going to
gets
mention when I was on. Yeah, y'all. Some of y'all have heard it before. You're gonna have to hear it again. But I was on the show, and I was on the bad end of a crush which meant that you should have just bet it all because you had to get it right anyway to have a chance. I bet too small, and I wound up tying the gentleman whose name was Hunter Sanderson. Great player. And he had me beat that first game on the buzzer. But we played again, and I think I beat him by like $200 or something very, very small like that. What happened was, I made a mistake. Didn't cost me the game, but it cost me about $7,000, $8,000. But two good things came out of that. First of all, it meant that Mark Jappinga came on a game later, so that meant that I won one more game. At least that's what I tell everybody. And second, the standby contestant in our group was a young lady named Molly Kossoff, who later went back on the show in October and won. And I think she won a pretty handsome amount of money, too. She was the lady with the Alex Trebek fingernails. She painted Alex Trebek in Jeopardy and all that stuff. She was a standby when I was on. She didn't get to go on. She went back and won. So I'm glad I didn't have to face her because she was a very, very good player. So y'all know I don't believe in betting to tie because I don't, unlike what you said, Todd, I don't like facing devils, and I don't want to have to face one devil twice. He or she is a very good player. So the second game I didn't bet to time. I had to $1 and knock him out of the game.
I think that's quite an interesting perspective, and one of these days, I feel as though we probably need to get maybe Ben and Keith together on a panel and just hash it out, possibly to the death. I'm not sure, but.
Ben, did Molly have her fingernails painted when you saw her the first time?
I don't know. I was just so focused the first time. I wasn't, like social or anything. I was just like I could barely write my name on all the forms. And I first started playing, my knees were shaking and all that stuff was happening. I didn't focus, Sarah, on anybody's fingernails, I'm afraid. And plus, there were 3 contestants who carried over with me, and I think we kind of kept to ourselves that because we had been through the fire before, the whole experience and everything. We weren't looking on everybody else as rookies. We were just, like if you're in an uncomfortable situation, she might have had him, she might not have. I'll ask her.
Okay, I guess we can move on to to more discussion on this past week. Now, I don't know if anyone counted, but over the course of the entire week, 5 episodes, there were precisely 3 correct responses, 2 of which came on Thursday and 1 of which came on Tuesday. Do we think that we had a week of difficult finals or just a crop of contestants for whom the categories chosen were not in their wheelhouse? I know Monday we had sports figures, Tuesday was business, Wednesday was wordplay, Friday was coats of arms. Wednesday and Friday were the 2 I thought were the more difficult ones. Monday and Tuesday I both got, but those 2 combined for a single get between them.
Today at work, I actually typed a command with a backslash in it. And that's very, very rare because the only reason I did is because I had to, part one of the arguments was a username, so it had to be domain/username. I don't think it was the worst ever. I still think the worst ever was Grass, the one that did in Andrew Moore, but that one was pretty sorry. No, I hope no one's watching, but I didn't like that one, but that's all right.
I went 3 for 5 on the week, but I did find out that my friend has like a Liberia coat of arms bedspread for some reason. And so if I had taken her up on the offer to visit her in Pittsburgh, then I might have done that one. She's not Liberian, so I don't know why she has that.
It's weird. Liberia was instant for me, but the Heinz 57 thing, I wrote it out in my head and scratched it out and put GE because of the 18-something thing. I didn't think Heinz had 57 flavors back then. I thought they were a bean company back then.
Bean?
Yeah, I thought they made
Heinz,
beans.
I didn't feel confident about it.
I didn't. I wouldn't have bet much on it if I'd have seen it after the fact. But I think Todd's final was kind of hard.
My final?
Yeah, it was easily overthought, you know.
I actually thought it was pretty easy.
Well, once you hear the answer, it's pretty easy. I know. In my case, I picked the other side of that trial. Actually, I picked the other lawyer in that trial.
Oh, okay. All right. Who was the other lawyer in that trial?
Jennings
W.J.
Bryant.
Bryant.
What was the final? I don't remember the final.
It was. Oh gosh.
I got it. Here it is.
Well, the answer was Clarence Darrow.
Yes.
Yeah. In 1936, at age 79, he published an article in Esquire magazine in which he described how to pick a jury. I think that could be easily overthought. You know, it could be O.W. Holmes or somebody like that.
Oh yeah. You're right.
Or even if the years were wrong, William Howard Taft. I think one reason I knew it is because the last play that I was ever in was Inherit the Wind, and I played the part of not the real William Jennings Bryan, but the fella on whom he was based. And that was one of the first things I talked to Liz about, and that's because she was a theater person, of course. And that's one of the reasons that I guess she was attracted to me. She's probably not now, but whatever. So that I got that one, but you know, I thought, oh, what if it's Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr. So
yeah, it was the first name that came to mind, so I wrote it down pretty quickly.
You're smarter than most.
Yeah, there are a couple of other ones that I could kick myself for missing, but not that one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like.
Oh yeah, Bo Bergdahl, man.
Oh. Yeah.
I thought that was hard.
I knew it was Bo, and I knew it was an alliteration, but I knew it wasn't Bo Biden. that and Madagascar.
What was the Madagascar clue?
Thank God for Daniel Radcliffe. Let me just say that.
I got your game up on the archive. It said over 9,400 feet. A word I can't pronounce. Maro Mokotro is the highest point on this island, 250 miles east of Africa's mainland. I hate when they say that a mass of land is 250 miles east. Of it is 350 miles east. When you think about it, that makes me think it's like a point on a map. I probably would have clammed. I probably would have said like Mauritius or something like that.
Yeah.
So,
well, I said Mozambique, which was totally wrong.
Man.
But it started with an M.
Yeah. That actually happens to me a lot too, especially in crossword puzzle. So don't feel bad.
Yeah, no. I looked good.
I think you played well. Whatever.
Yeah, you did.
It was great. It was a lot of fun.
I bet it was.
Now, I guess for Todd, now the discussion has switched over to your episode. You've spoken about a couple of your regrets. What correct responses were you most proud of when you played your game?
I think all my Daniel Radcliffe ones, Equus.
Oh yeah.
That's a good guess.
That was great. How to Succeed, just because Catherine got it wrong first, and I was like, ha! I know one you don't. And some of the R music ones, Lionel Richie, Rhythm Nation.
That was good.
Yeah. Things that I absolutely knew for sure. I was so impressed with Catherine with the cars. Cars, in other words. Amazing. She was so
I seem to
fast.
remember those being tough for sure. So
it was so hard. Yeah, my brain just wasn't working on that category. Not in the way that hers was.
Do you have any plans for your, I guess, $2,000, the extra $1,000, when they come in?
Let
Let me guess, a cat litter box.
Yeah, cat litter box would be amazing. My cat would love that. I need to buy a new car, so that's. Oh, you have a cat too. Yeah, it's probably going to go towards that. Thinking some kind of hybrid.
Nice.
LA.
Mm-hmm.
We love our cars here.
Yeah.
So hopefully it'll come soon.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's usually 120 days after tapings, or
Yeah.
after airing, sorry, so that's
End of January.
yeah, thereabouts.
That's all right. I'll wait.
What was your favorite part of the experience?
What's that?
What was your favorite part of the experience of being on Jeopardy?
Man, I think getting the call that I passed was the most amazing feeling, because I know how competitive it is, and
Mm-hmm.
I was floored that I actually made it. So that was the highlight. Being on the show was gravy, but being accepted for the show was amazing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very
Have you
nice.
taken the test before
I
that?
took the online test twice before, and I got to the second level where you go to the hotel and they you do the in-person test.
Yeah.
Just once before, and they keep you on file for like 18 months.
Yeah.
So this is my third time taking the online test.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And this time was the whole experience was really quick. I took the online test, got the notice that I made it to the second level, like within 2 weeks, and
Wow.
then 3 days after that, they called me.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That is that is quick.
Fast.
Really fast. Yeah. I was happy about that because I was sick of waiting.
Yeah.
That 18 months is a long time to wait.
Yeah.
It is.
There was a chance that I wasn't going to go on that day because I'm a local, and they saved the locals for the last show.
Yeah.
But it turns out that they gave one of the out-of-towners the wrong date to come.
Oh no.
So
Wow.
so they were short one extra, and so I got on, and I'm happy about that.
Yeah. Cool.
I didn't realize they were prone to that sort of mistake.
Well, don't tell anybody.
You just told the world.
Yeah, you just told the world, Todd.
What do I care? I'm sure they brought her back for the next taping date.
I hope so. So is there anything, I guess, for some of our other panelists? Sarah, I think this is one of the first times you've been on with us, so I guess I can ask, is there anything you could say about the Tournament of Champions that will not run afoul of any sort of regulations like the experience or anything like that?
There's nothing I can say that will not run afoul of the regulation.
Well, I can say
Alright.
No.
I sat next to her husband one day in the audience. I can say that.
Okay.
Yeah, it was
In
a
that
really
case-
cool experience going into it, knowing who the people were. It was completely different from when you go into it and you're, up against a bunch of strangers and you meet new people and you make new friends and stuff, but this was a bunch of known entities. And in some cases, even, the families were known entities and guests in the audience and stuff.
Mhm.
So that was kind of cool, researching people ahead of time and stalking them on social media and stuff.
Oh, you did research people ahead of time.
A little bit.
Mm-mm.
I think Arthur was actually studying all of our games. I was just sort of looking
That's what I
there.
heard.
But
What's he?
yeah.
What good does that do? No offense, but what good does that do? You're gonna get through all 30 of them anyway.
I mean, I guess if you really, really studied, you might know like what people's strengths and weaknesses are, and that might help you determine how to wager against them in Final Jeopardy or something. But it's a lot of studying to do for probably not a lot of payoff.
I would have been thinking, okay, this is their better category. Maybe I should attempt to hunt a daily double in this category more aggressively than, say, one of their weaker categories, for example, to try to take it out of play. But I guess that might that might be where I might see a payoff out of that sort of studying. But then again, I mean, in his case, he might have not realized until very late that all of his notes on Jerry, for example, would be thrown out the window with the in exchange for Mark, for example.
Zing. He has not gone to court yet, so I withhold comment.
Well, I mean, I can say that I feel as it is. I am allowed to say that he was not part of the tournament, as that was public knowledge. So.
Yeah, I put the matchups on the blog a long time ago. So.
Oh yeah, I saw that in the comment.
Yeah.
I guess we can tell people that now.
Yeah.
Whatever. Those are some interesting matchups in the quarterfinals, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, last time, when I went to the Battle of the Decades, I didn't say what the matchups were, and then I was annoyed when somebody posted them on JBoard. So I was like, I'm not going to let that happen again.
Yeah, I think JBoard is now saying that you're the ones who posted it, so that means that's all good. So you got the scoop.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I think you got the scoop on it. So well
Well
done, Jeannie.
I thought he was
Good. I finally get my due.
Win.
Cool. I'll have to look for
pretty
that.
solid,
I didn't know
it was someplace, I don't remember where, but it was the whole thing was a solid experience. I mean, everybody was just pure gold. I thought I was going to be more nervous than I was the first time, but no, I think we felt like, and Sarah, you can correct me if I'm wrong, confirm, deny, or whatever, but it was almost like an instant bond because, we had all been through the same fire together, and there was, in my view, some mutual respect for everybody, but as tournament went on, it developed into that and affection. So y'all are awesome people, and I'm glad I know y'all.
I think my regret is that we were sort of discouraged from interacting with each other before the tournament. And even out in California, I wasn't sure if I was supposed to talk to you before, actual gameplay began or something. And I think, if we had a little more explicit instructions about when it's okay to talk to people about what, then we could have bonded even more than we all did. So.
You might be right. I interacted with very... oh, go ahead.
So I think that's something to maybe pass along up the chain in terms of maybe let people know what specifically more is and is not allowed. So that possible bonding may happen even better, but that might be just me talking here. So
I didn't interact with anybody in a very deep fashion before the tournament because I didn't want to. I wanted to focus on my own self, with the exception of Mark Jappingo, of course, because we had been contestants together. I thought he was going to make the tournament, then I didn't think he was, and then it turns out he did. So it's nothing personal that I didn't just message everybody on Twitter, say, hey guys, we're going to a tournament. That's great. It's not personal. I just didn't want to. I considered y'all competition. So I just didn't do that much interaction beforehand. But I wish I had.
Well, I am out of my notes are complete for this week, so I think it's a good enough time to go offline for another week. Once again, I'd like to thank all of our panelists, Todd, Sarah, there you are once again, Sarah, Ben, and Jeannie. Thank you all for joining us once again. We'll be back at some point in the next 7 or 8 days with talk about 5 more episodes of regular Jeopardy, maybe one of Sports Jeopardy. For all of us here at thejeopardyfan.com, I am Andy Saunders. Once again, to have an excellent evening.